Okay, everyone, this is Dr. Biel's quick tour of the 8-part brain. It's always challenging because when you handle it, it falls apart into so many pieces. But let's see if we can do this. You're looking at the right cerebral hemisphere and the right cerebellum and the right-hand side of the brainstem. If we look at the lobes quickly, frontal lobe, temporal lobe, separated by the lateral sulcus. It's kind of tough to see the central sulcus up here on this one. So we're just going to go back and look at occipital lobe posteriorly. This would be the right cerebellar hemisphere. The parietal lobe would be posterior to the central sulcus. I'm not even going to try it on this one. Forget about it. A deep lobe, if I pull down the temporal lobe here and you look down in here, you can see this other lobe that's deep down in. That's the insular lobe, or the insula right there. If I remove the temporal lobe and just pull this out, pull out the brainstem, you're looking at the insula right here. But technically, when that's up inside here, in a real living brain, it's down deep here if you pull down the temporal lobe. So that is the insula. If I pull this portion out now, just flip this over, you can also see the olfactory tract and the olfactory bulb on the inferior frontal lobe here. I'm going to move this out of the way. We're just going to focus on this. You're looking at the brainstem here. So this is the midbrain, and you're actually looking at the cerebral peduncle, but the top portion of the midbrain is it's the first part of the brainstem. The central part of the brainstem is the pons. See where this has been cut right here? That is one of the cerebellar peduncles. A peduncle is a stalk. So if I pick the piece of the cerebellum up that they've cut and you look at it like this, okay, because I can't handle the phone and the model, but this flat part right here and this flat part right here, they're both representing the stalk where the cerebellum was attached to the back of the pons here, kind of the posterior lateral portion of the pons. That's cerebellar peduncle there, as well as right here. If we flip this around to the other side, and we put this back together with one hand, everybody's seasick from the video, it's awesome. What you're looking at with the occipital lobe removed, you can still see corpus callosum here. You can see septum pellucidum. The fornix would be right here. The choroid plexus is kind of light blue with the lovely lines and dots all over it. That's going to make your cerebrospinal fluid. This posterior portion of the diencephalon would be the representation of the thalamus, with the dot being the interthalamic adhesion. The little pink guy right here would be the pineal gland. If you jump anteriorly, this triangular portion here would be hypothalamus. This white flat portion would be the representation of the optic chiasm. The optic nerve, the stump of it, is right here. So the chiasm would be where it's cut in the very center, and that white painted region represents that. This is your pituitary gland coming down off the hypothalamus here. You can't really see the stalk, which is the infundibulum, not so great on this model. Right there, the tiny little white ball, that's the mammillary body. If you look at the brainstem, you have the top portion of the brainstem, that's the midbrain. The posterior portion of the midbrain is the tectal plate. In between the two, this channel that conducts cerebrospinal fluid from the recessed third ventricle up here down, that is the cerebral aqueduct. You can't really visualize the fourth ventricle very well. It's a space in between pons and medulla. You can see the bulbous pons bulging out right here, and then inferior to the pons would be the medulla oblongata. So it's kind of a little bit crazy. A lot of these models look quite different, but the 8-part brain that falls apart and it's challenging to work with, it's great because you can take it apart. You can especially see the insula here, kind of on the opposite side of the thalamus. So that's the quick tour of the 8-part brain.